And this time around, the quote comes from the former Secretary of State for the United States, Henry Kissinger, who said this: "If you do not know where you're going, every road will get you nowhere." I love that,
Hmm.
especially, that kind of hits home for a lot of us guys who don't like to stop and ask for directions.
Yeah, the profundity of his quote is powerful. It is a powerful reminder of the importance of clear direction and planning. And so when we apply that to retirement planning, it suggests that without a concrete vision of what you want your retirement to look like, you may end up unprepared, or worse, dissatisfied despite years of saving and investing. So I'm going to break down how it applies, along with some common obstacles and maybe some creative ways to better prepare. So if you have not thought about your retirement goals, things like where you want to live, which activities you want to pursue, and the lifestyle, the overall lifestyle that you envision, any financial plan may fall short. Just as you would not start a journey without knowing the destination, entering retirement without clear and concise goals can leave you feeling lost or financially stretched. And there are some common obstacles while planning for retirement. And the first one is lack of clarity when it comes to goals. Many people save, and they save for retirement without a detailed understanding of what it is that they actually want. Are you going to travel? And if so, what type of travel is that? Because pulling a camper and traveling the national parks requires not a whole lot of money. Traveling, business class on Emirates and staying at the Four Seasons or the Ritz-Carlton, that is going to require a different level of capital. So depending on how you travel, how extensively you travel, do you plan on starting any new hobbies? Because golf is expensive, okay? Shooting is expensive. Tennis is expensive. Do you plan on downsizing your home? And so having vague goals often results in insufficient savings or inappropriate investment strategies. Matt, what do you think about lack of clarity as far as goals and planning for retirement?
Yeah, no, that's absolutely right. I think of planning for retirement and the process of getting there, sort of like, setting your GPS up for a trip, right? The very
Yeah.
first thing you got to do is put in that destination. And so if you don't know where you're going, how in the world are you going to get there? It's just not going to happen. And the thing is once you put in that destination, what then happens? Then you have that roadmap to get there, and the GPS can guide you along the way to avoid any of those obstacles, like the ones that you were just talking about.
I absolutely love it. And, my GPS, and I think pretty much everybody's GPS, especially if you're using Google Maps, can warn you of cars that are stalled in the middle of the road, speed traps that are coming. That's my personal favorite. Accidents, and may provide you with an alternate route that will save you some time. And that's really what a financial plan is about: being able to adapt, improvise, and overcome no matter what life throws at you. Okay. The number two very common obstacle is simply underestimating costs in retirement. Okay. People fail to accurately estimate some pretty important expenses. Number one being healthcare expenses. Folks, the cost of healthcare has been rising exponentially over the past 30 years in the United States of America. And we're not even talking about things like long-term care, and how ridiculous it is just to pay for 1 month of either in-home healthcare, assisted living, accommodations, or nursing home, 24-hour nursing home. And then what about all of those things that are tied to inflation, just the regular cost of goods and services, things that you consume each and every day, that can absolutely derail even the best laid out plans if you have underestimated and not built into those things. So unanticipated expenses can chip away at retirement funds much faster than what you had actually expected and planned for.
Yeah, that's 100% correct. And that's the thing too, is we often say, we don't expect you to have a crystal ball because our crystal balls are broken. It's like that mine's been in the shop for a long time. You don't have to be able to predict the future, but the thing that you do need to have is a plan that's going to be good no matter what happens in the
Mhm.
future, no matter if inflation, rears its ugly head to the extent that it did just a couple of years ago when we were looking at 9%,
Mm.
inflation year over year. So you want to be able to be prepared for no matter what happens, all those what ifs in life.
Yeah, I mean, it goes back to the adage, it's better to have it and not need it than need it and not have it, right? I would much rather have it and not need it than the opposite. Okay. The third most common obstacle that can derail retirement is simply relying solely on traditional savings. Okay. So if you're relying just on retirement accounts like a 401k or 403b, or if you're a federal employee, a thrift savings plan, or maybe you don't even have one of those, but you now have an IRA and you haven't explored alternative sources of income, and you haven't explored diversifying your portfolio, and you haven't explored tax efficient strategies for your portfolio, then you are absolutely missing the boat, and that could derail your retirement altogether.
Yeah, and that is not a situation that you want to find yourself in at all. I mean, there's a lot that you need to be prepared for. And here's the thing: I think that when we go through kind of all these different obstacles that people might face in their retirement plan and throughout their life in retirement,
Mhm.
it can seem overwhelming. It can seem like, how in the world am I ever going to make it then? Well, that is why you need help from a professional, from a financial pro like a Mike Zano to help you navigate through it. Because Mike, this is what you do each and every day.
Yeah, it is what I do each and every day. And I always ask people a very simple question when they look overwhelmed, and my question to them is, how do you eat an elephant? And they kind of look at me like I have a third eyeball in the middle of my forehead. And they're like, what do you mean? I'm like, how do you eat an elephant? That's a very large undertaking. Well, you start by doing it one bite at a time. Okay. Just like you had to, rock back and forth before you could crawl, and you could crawl before you could, stand up, and you had to be able to stand up before you could walk, and walk before you could run. You have to take those baby steps when it comes to retirement planning. And the sooner you do it, the more time to have that effect be compounded. All right. And then the fourth biggest obstacle that I see is just lifestyle adjustments. Okay. Retirement can bring on emotional challenges like the loss of purpose or social isolation. A lot of people, going to work each and every day is what they live for. They live to work, which is a problem in the United States of America. There are many other countries, especially in Europe, where they don't live to work, they live to live, right? Um, social isolation. If you're by yourself and you no longer have to go into an office or get to go into an office to provide that interaction with people that whether you like them or not, doesn't matter. There's just some, interaction there that can definitely derail, because typical financial planning doesn't normally address those issues. And without preparing for those psychological shifts, your retirement just might feel unfulfilling.
Yeah, and that's one thing. I mean, I remember back when my dad retired,
Mhm.
and he, had a good little time for a while, kind of sitting around the house and not doing much of anything. But then he was like, eventually, and not it didn't take that long. He was like, okay, I got to do something. I can't just, sit around and not feel like I'm of any use and not interact with people and all that. Because I mean, for a good 40 years, he was going into the factory every day, and interacting with all these people that he had known for decades and all this. And suddenly, as you were saying, it wasn't seeing anybody, wasn't doing the things that he had always done, which some of that was a relief. And then some of it was just kind of a shock to the system. And so, yeah, I mean, it really can lead to that. So you got to have the sort of financial wherewithal to be able to help, make yourself get out there
Mhm.
and actually do some things in retirement. Because I mean, you don't want to be in a situation where you have to go back to work, right? You want to,
Right.
if you love working and you want to do something, sure. But if don't, you don't want to find yourself in a situation where you have to work. So if you don't have to work, then you want to have the financial resources to be able to do the things that you want to do, and do these kind of fun things with people who are friends, family, and loved ones.
Yeah, no doubt. The good thing is that there are some strategies, and some of them are creative strategies to help you overcome those obstacles. So, if you have a lack of clarity, then you want to visualize your retirement life, but do it in detail, right? Take the time and actually write down your ideal day-to-day life in retirement. Where are you living? What are you doing? Who are you doing it with? Are you going to volunteer? Are you going to work part time? Getting specific can help guide your financial choices and ensure that your plan aligns with your goals. Okay. The second thing is obvious: diversify your sources of income. And maybe you look outside the box as far as income strategies. Consider things like rental properties. Maybe you start a small business, or you create passive income streams like royalties or dividends through investing. Don't rely solely on a fixed pension or, God forbid, Social Security. Okay. And you have to budget for the unexpected. Build a what if fund, all right, to account for those unexpected events like healthcare crises, or maybe helping adult children financially. That's real, folks. I've had to do that, and I get to do that. That's a privilege. Okay. Consider insurance options that can cover those risks, maybe long-term care insurance or a health savings account. And then invest in non-financial resources. So, it's one thing to have financial wealth, but it's another thing to build social capital. And building that strong relationship with your friends, your family, developing community networks can become crucial support systems when you actually do retire. And that social engagement can help prevent isolation. It will improve your mental health and, even, believe it or not, reduce medical costs. Right, Matt?
100%. And that is something I think that people don't necessarily connect the dots in their mind with, because, if you are doing better from a mental and emotional standpoint, you've got less stress. Well, the amount of toll that stress can take on
Mm.
the body is huge. So if you avoid that, then yeah, you avoid these higher, medical costs potentially. You are just in a better spot from a well-being standpoint overall, not just mentally, not just emotionally, but physically as well.
Yeah, no doubt. So the key takeaways in as far as I'm concerned are to keep evolving your vision. Retirement is not a static phase. As you age, your preferences may shift. Your needs will probably shift, and set aside some time every few years to revisit your goals, adjust your plan as needed, which is going to allow flexibility for personal growth as well as changes in circumstance. And then you might consider coaching or counseling to help adjust to the emotional aspects of retirement. Having a purpose driven retirement, whether it is volunteering, learning, or mentoring, will make the financial aspect much more rewarding. So, I love Kissinger's quote. It reminds us that a vague, unplanned retirement could lead to dissatisfaction and even financial shortfalls. And obviously, to avoid those things that nobody wants, you need specific, evolving goals, as well as a holistic approach to planning that accounts for emotional well being, unexpected costs, and diversified income.
And it's definitely, as you say, not a static thing. You've got to be able to make those adjustments. You've got to know that change is coming. I think that is super, super important here. And folks, I will say to you, as our listeners to the show, it is easy to get started along a road to a better retirement, one that you have a peace of mind about, one that you can have some assurances about, and know that you're going to have enough money to last as long as you do, and at least enough money to last as long as you do. Plus, those dollars to pass along maybe to the next generation as well, and any other beneficiaries that you want to name or that you have in mind. And that's just kind of the tip of the iceberg as far as what Mike Zaino can do for you. I want to encourage you to go to moneymatterswithmike.com. Once again, that's moneymatterswithmike.